Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Musonius Rufus's second lecture, which gets the title in translation that the human being is born with an inclination towards virtue, but which in the Greek doesn't actually have any sort of title, is a very concise and really quite central argument that is being made that reflects Musonius's Stoic position. He thinks that all of us universally in the human race have essentially the same inborn, because of our human nature, capacities for developing the various moral virtues. And, we should remind ourselves, well, what are these? He's actually going to name 3 of these in here. The Stoics distinguished the same 4 cardinal virtues as did most of the other schools of ancient philosophy, like the Platonists and the Cynics, the Epicureans, some of the other more obscure schools as well. And so those are practical wisdom, phronesis, justice, dikaiosunes, courage, andrea, which is not mentioned in this one, but gets mentioned in a lot of his other lectures, and then temperance, sophrosune. And he wants to say that all of us have the capacity for that. And I wanted to begin by looking at, you might say, the conclusions of the arguments that he's making here, because they characterize what is he actually talking about. So the human being is born with, as he says, an inclination towards virtue, is how it's translated. So to pros arretein doesn't use the word inclination there, which will come up later, but gegongenai, that is the word that can be used for being born, but coming into being. We come into this cosmos with something, right, the ton anthropon, each human being, in relation to or directed towards arete, virtue, the virtues. A little bit later, he will talk about the presence of goodness within our nature. Goodness there is also translating arete. So the presence of virtue in our nature. So the Greek there is metenai aretes phuse hemin. So hemin is for us human beings. Phuse, by nature, right? And metenai. So enai is to be, and then the met there is with, or, it's a connective sort of thing. So we're constituted in such a way that we have something that's like virtue or can be developed into it. As we're going to see, there's a more robust conception of it coming later. He will actually talk about innate inclination. Phusikein, so phusike there, same word as phusis, is an adjective, hyperbolein, so being, directed towards something. Inclination works pretty decently for that, and that is natural. That is part of our nature, and it is in the soul, in the psyche, towards goodness and nobility. The ancient Greeks like to tie these 2 words together, the agathon and the kalon, and so they're both connected together in this concept. Another key idea he's going to invoke shortly after that is that we have seeds, sperma, of virtue, aretes, in each one of us. Doesn't matter what background we're from, doesn't matter what our gender is, how old we are, how young we are. Every one of us, every single human being has these seeds of virtue within them. So, how does he make a case for this? He actually provides a number of different considerations, which we might consider to be several different, distinct arguments, although some of them do connect with each other or play off of each other. So the first one, lawmakers, the people who are in charge, he says, lay down for all alike what may be done and forbid what may not be done, right? They exempt from punishment nobody who disobeys or does wrong. They don't exempt the young or the old, the strong or the weak, or anyone whomsoever. So they're being you might say fair and objective. Their punishments are universal. And why would they do this? Well, what might get somebody off the hook? The fact that they have gone astray or sinned or fallen into error. Hamartein is the word that gets used there. Very important term in ancient Greek legal theory and also in ethics. So he says, if the whole notion of virtue were something that came to us from without, so it's not something that we had any share in inside of ourselves, it was something that we just learned from other people, well, then that would get us off the hook, right? You say, well, look, they never had an opportunity to learn what the right thing is, or they actually got bad advice about that sort of stuff. So, he's going to say, we don't exempt people for that. In activities pertaining to other arts, nobody who's not learned the art is expected to be free from error. You didn't have any music classes? Well, if you sing bad, we chalk it up to that. If you can't do mathematics because nobody taught you that, think about calculus, for example. A lot of us went through all sorts of mathematics in elementary school to high school, and maybe even had to take a math class in college, so we know how to do fractions and stuff like that. Can you actually do the integral calculus? No. Is that a flaw with you? No, because nobody taught it to you. If you wanted to learn it, you could have, but there was no reason for most people to have done that. What about virtue? What about good behavior? We don't give people quite that same pass, he says, do we? So legislators don't give them a pass, and frankly, we don't do that with people in our day-to-day life either. If our neighbor is a jerk to us and steals from us, we don't say, oh, well, they never learned right from wrong. We assume that they ought to be able to do that. Who do we actually expect to be free from error? Here's a second argument. He says, well, let's consider a couple cases. In the care of the sick, we don't expect anybody except for the physician to be free of error, and that guy had better be free of error, right? If he isn't, well, then we don't like that. We think that he's a screw-up, right? What about handling a musical instrument? He talks about the lyre, the musician, managing the helm of a ship, the pilot. What about, now it's translated here as the conduct of life, but it's actually just in life, en bio, in how we live. So maybe the person that ought to be the expert on that is the philosopher, right? Because we do know that the Stoics considered philosophy to be the art of living, the techne, body of knowledge that teaches us how to live. So maybe the rest of us poor schmucks, we get, an excuse because we're not philosophers. And Musonius says, no, that's not the way it works, right? Everybody, even those who've given no attention to virtue, get criticized if they don't display virtue, but instead vice. So everybody is expected to use those inclinations and develop them further. This is an argument for us having those inclinations. I really like this third argument that he brings up. It's quite funny.
He says, take anybody, any ordinary person, you ask them, now it's translated here, are you stupid or intelligent? It's actually, are you practically wise or a fool, right? Are you do you have phronesis? Are you phronimos? Or are you aphron? Are you kind of a dummy, right? Most people are not going to say, yeah, I'm pretty stupid, unless I guess they have poor self-esteem or they're using it to conceal flaws or something like that. Most people are saying, oh, I'm pretty good. I'm prudent. I'm smart. Same thing with just and unjust. Are you just or are you unjust? I'm just, right? Are you temperate? Are you in control of your appetites? Do you do things in a measured, orderly way? Or are you a slob? Are you too inclined to indulge yourself? Oh, no, I'm not like that. Most people will actually make claims to have virtue. And if you just ask them straight out, as he says, are you a good person or a bad person? Oh, I'm a good person, right? So he says, okay, people will do that. And notice, they don't have any sort of teacher, right? A didaskalos. They don't have any study, mathesis, or any training, askesis, in the virtues that they're supposed to have, and yet they are confident that they possess and display these virtues. So he says, well, what is this except evidence of the existence of this innate inclination, right? This is where he draws the conclusion about the innate inclination and the seeds of virtue. The last thing that he says, because it's to our advantage, it's useful for us to be good, some of us do deceive ourselves into thinking we really are good when we're not, right? Others of us, as he's going to say, are ashamed. We feel embarrassment or bashfulness to admit that we don't have virtue. So would we feel that, once again, about other arts? Like, would one who hasn't learned letters or music or gymnastic, would they claim to have these sorts of things without actually knowing them? I mean, yes, we do see people who think that they're good at music, but they suck, and nobody tells them, and they go on and, people maybe indulge them, but sooner or later they'll figure it out. Or gymnastics, right? Or writing or things like that. So Musonius says it doesn't work this way with virtue. Everyone professes that they have virtue, right? And so why is that? Well, because none of these other skills are natural to us, and we're not born with a natural faculty for them, but there's an inclination. And again, he uses that term, hyperbole, that is inborn in every one of us human beings. So, does this mean, to bring this to a close, that we're all naturally virtuous? No, it does not mean that at all. It doesn't mean that we actually have fully developed virtue. He's actually said, listen, some of us are ashamed to admit that we don't have the virtues, and he's using the word we, who mean there, right? So he's including himself and presumably some of his students in that. It does mean that we have, like he says, an inclination, a capacity that isn't just a bare potentiality or possibility, but we are attracted to virtue, and maybe we need to take some of the obstacles out of the way or get some teaching and some training in it so that we actually can become genuinely good and virtuous people.